Blog Talk Radio.
Following ingredients include a look behind the scenes. Cook uncovered until hot. Add grooves to taste.
I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl.
The accident was over a year ago. A second woman has been elected president. The 12th planet has been named in the solar system. The last wild polar bear has died. I slept through it all. I was here for my waking. He called it a beginning. He said it was good. I think he may have thought that anything I did was good.
Welcome to Transition Radio, live from Hollywood, Florida, with your host and hostess, Mark Angelo and Jessica Lynn Cummings. Show for trans folks, by trans folks, here to let your voice be heard.
Well, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Transition Radio. So glad you're able to join us tonight. We want to thank everyone in chat. We also want to let everyone know that the show is live for 30 minutes. Once that 30-minute period is up, it goes automatically to recording mode, so don't fear it. You'll be able to listen to the entire show once it goes on demand. Plus, I also put it on a YouTube video format for everyone to be able to enjoy. Tonight we have an amazing guest. Her name is Jala Mckenzie Burns. But before we bring her in, we want to thank our sponsor,
thebreastformstore.com. They have everything you need for your cross-dressing and transgender needs. Visit their website and tell them Transition Radio sent you.
Jala Mckenzie Burns was born of biracial parents on November 11th, 1965, as Dave Edwards Morris. Abandoned in the hospital, she was placed into the foster care system and adopted by an African-American family in 1972. As a young child, she personally experienced the racial unrest and was taunted for her dual racial heritage. On top of this, she found herself expected to live up to societal demands of her as a boy and a young man, while she yearned for the things of feminine nature. To hide the truth of who she felt she was inside, she joined the U.S. Marine Corps, worked in the political arena, graduated from college, married, and raised a child.
In all that time, pain and depression followed her because she could not express her true nature. When her adoptive father died, she fell into a deep clinical depression, which triggered an attempted suicide and admission into a psych ward. After revealing her desire to express herself as a woman, her adopted mother rejected her, sending her on a journey that eventually united her with her biological mother and sister, and later with her other siblings. In 2004, she began transitioning into the woman that she is today. In January of 2006, she legally changed her name. Through this period, she continued to experience depression and was admitted numerous times for hospitalizations due to her unhealthy methods of coping. In 2010, after the death of her adoptive mother, she was reunited with her biological mother and siblings. At this point, with the support of her family, reading, and hard work, she began to overcome her depression and moved into a new stage of life. Do something for somebody every day. This is the motto by which Jala lives and by which she shares the common experience of climbing life's mountains. Jala raises the question, what impact would society have if everyone did something for somebody every day? And now, let's welcome to our show the lovely Jala Mckenzie. Hello, Jala.
Hi. Good afternoon. Good evening with all this wonderful weather that we have with Nemo.
What is Nemo?
Nemo is a winter storm that we have here in New Jersey. I traveled to New Jersey, so it's impacting New Jersey and New York, Boston, Connecticut, the Northeast region. 6
like
inches to 12 inches of snow.
Is So that's like a hurricane with snow?
Yes.
Huge. Yeah. Don't think I'm going to be going north anytime soon.
Yeah, this year it seems that there's been a lot of weird weather, a lot of storms, and a lot of snow in different parts of northern country. So,
yes,
we're fortunate enough to live in South Florida, and it has been kind of cold for us, but nothing compared to what folks up north are experiencing.
Yes, we cannot complain.
So anyway, we're very glad to have you on our show, and delighted that you're going to be spending the next 30 minutes with us, and I'm excited for the listeners to hear your story. And every single transgender individual has a heartfelt story, and I think it's important for their voices to be heard, and that's why we at Transition Radio are here to create a library of wonderful stories, heartfelt ones, and just create a big family of transgender individual stories.
Absolutely.
We're very glad you are able to join us.
Yes, thank you, Jala. Tell us about the challenge. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me in, and I look forward to the interview tonight.
Oh, no problem. We've been looking forward to it as well. So tell us about the challenges that you faced as a biracial and transgender person.
Yes, I can answer that question on several fronts. Let's start with the birth back in 1965, November 11th. I was left in the hospital. My biological mother, she was institutionalized for depression, Caucasian lady, met an African-American male, my birth father. After giving birth to me, she decided that she did not want to go back to the institution. So there's two stories. The first story is that she left me at the hospital because it wasn't fair to keep me on the run with her. The second story was that during that time, biracial birth was taboo. By it being taboo, the birth, the maternal mother, parents, grandparents did not want me as part of the family. That's the second story. Both stories fit during the 1960s. A second level is the name calling. In 1972, I was adopted as a biracial child into the African-American community. Both my adoptive brother, who is my mentor, best friend as well, he and I both came from different families as biracial children, and we both faced the racial strife during the 1970s. Also, during the middle 70s, attempted busing in the Detroit public schools took place, and therefore I was caught in the crossfire between the African-American and Caucasian children. I was in a lot of fights that resulted in me crying and, emotional behavior, and I was called a lot of girly names, such as sissy, such as in the 6th grade, because of my tight, curly hair, I was called Shirley Temple, and other names as well. Moving on to 1984, the winter of 1984, the winter semester, I enrolled at Eastern Michigan University. My very first trip to Ned's bookstore, as I was leaving the store, a young man who was about 20 years old or so, early 20s, Caucasian guy, he ran into me and he told me that he hated me because I was a nigger. He was kind of frightening because I saw some sharp object that was protruding from his glove, so I got scared and I ran. In the late 1980s, my ex-spouse and I, we were driving home from Eastern Michigan University to Inkster, Michigan, on Michigan Avenue. We were stopped at a red light, and a young guy yelled out the window, "Don't you guys have any kids?" because of, you guys being interracial. Again, it was a lot of name-calling as far as the transgender, the gender transition. There were a lot of people who, out of habit, were used to call me by the masculine identification, but then there are some people that, out of rudeness and ignorance, continue to do that. Other biases that I faced included employment. I attempted to apply for an interview for a cell phone company that I don't wish to mention the name, and the interview was going very well at first, and then as the person who was interviewing me looked at the application and saw that I had a former name, the interview turned for the negative, and the way that it turned for the negative, the gentleman said that I was overqualified for the job. So, again, I thought that was kind of, hilarious. I've had other issues at the beginning of my transition back in 2004 as far as the restroom and locker room usage. excuse me, but with the support of my doctors, my gender specialist, Kimball James Sargent, and with other documentation, I've been allowed to use the proper restroom and locker rooms. So again, that's the challenges that I face both on a biracial and transgender front.
It really kills me how humanity fears what's different, and then when they feel what's different, they turn around and they try to make fun of people, whether it's because of color, race, creed, gender, whatever it is, instead of realizing that we all are different, and that's beautiful. I mean, if we were all the same, it would be a very boring world to live in.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Absolutely. And, that thing that you said about being on the job interview and that old famous quote, you're overqualified for the position, that just really means something totally different.
Absolutely.
If you're overqualified for the position, then you're perfect for the position in my eyes.
It's just a way
That's correct.
Excuse. It's an excuse for them to get out of the discriminatory card, because that's basically what they were doing. It's really sad because transgender individuals are very qualified to do whatever job that they're capable of doing, and it shouldn't be a factor of what your gender identity.
Absolutely.
You have gender dysphoria.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this. The rejection from your adopted mother led you to find your biological mother. Tell us how that went.
Yes. In July of 2003, I had separated from my ex-spouse. I moved to Fayetteville, North Carolina. I set my utilities up even before I changed my name legally. I set the utilities up to Jala Mckenzie. Out of habit, I called my adopted mother just to say hi, see how she's doing. I shared my internal gender conflict with her, and I also advised her that I had a desire to start my transition. She kicked me out of her life by saying that, hey, you're abomination to hell, that I don't want to continue our relationship. However, I have a gift for you. And the gift that she had for me was a number to the Children's Aid Society in Detroit, Michigan. That number led, when I called the number, they gave me information, and they said that, hey, your biological sister, Patricia, and your biological mother have been trying to find you for many years, and this is wonderful news. So they gave me a phone number. It was funny because I had to dial the number 3 times. The first time that I called, I forgot to dial 1. It was a long-distance number down to Venice, Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida. So I forgot to dial the 1 from North Carolina. The second time, I transposed numbers. The third phone call, we finally connected, and my mother and I, we just cried. We couldn't really have a fluent conversation because of the emotions. It was like ice being poured up my veins. It was just so wonderful meeting and speaking to my birth mother, who I yearned for many years. On July 13, 2003, I met my sister Patricia and my mother for the very first time. I flew down to Tampa, Florida. I met them in August. I moved down there briefly. In the fall of 2003, I met my brother. May 2011, I met my wonderful sister out of Woodstock, Georgia, Karen. May 6th of 2012, just last year, was the first time that 4 of our 6 siblings met together for the very first time in Woodstock, Georgia. We're still looking for Art and Randy, who are also our birth brothers, but we cannot find them, but 4 of us have reunited. The reunion went very well. My birth mother has depression. She had severe depression, had every right to have depression. And at that time in my life when I met her, being in my deep depression, I just had to distance myself a little bit because it was just a little bit too much for me. But they are a wonderful family. But I will also say that I was truly blessed to be raised by the Burns family as well.
That's amazing. We have a caller on the line here. I want to see if they have a question for you. Let's find out.
Sure.
Let's see. Caller, do you have a question for Jayla? Hello?
Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, I guess either the caller. Sometimes people call just to listen into the show, and it shows on the
no, it doesn't show up on the.
Well, it does from the call.
Oh, does it?
Anyway, so much for that. So we put the call on hold. But yeah, very, very moving story. At least out of one bad thing, something good led to the fact that you got to meet your biological family, which is very, very moving and inspirational.
Absolutely. So, Jala, how did you overcome your depression?
Yes, this is a deep conversation. With my book, Climbing Life's Mountains, this is, in my opinion, the most impactful section of my book of how I overcame depression. On August 6th of 2002, that was the lowest day of my life. I was actually suicidal. I attempted suicide. It resulted in my hospitalization at the University of North Carolina Medical Center, the psych ward. I was there for 16 days. I stopped eating for about a week strong. I ended up having 4 inpatient hospitalizations, 4 partial hospitalizations, and also unhealthy coping mechanisms. My steps of overcoming depression took an ironic twist. December 3rd of 2010, my god sister, Kimberly, she passed. She was 46 years old in Detroit. She passed. At the same time, my adopted mother was not doing well. She was at the end of her life as well. My brother Derek had checked on her. He was on his way out of town back to the San Mateo, California area, and therefore I wanted to attend and be supportive of Kimberly and her family, my other god sisters, god brother, and my godmother. The result of that was December 12th, which was a Sunday, 2010. I saw my mother, my adopted mother, for the very last time. That was the first time I've seen her in several years, but I was persuaded to go by, take a program of Kimberly's to my mother. On December 19th, 2010, which was a week later, my mother had passed. The ironic twist here, my god family and my adopted family both said that they did not kick me out of their lives. That, that was my mother's statement that she had, and I love her dearly, by the way. She was a wonderful woman, a very God-fearing woman. I love her deeply. But my god family and my adopted family both said, hey, we didn't kick you out of our lives. We want you part of our lives. So that helped, first step. The second step was I continued to reunite with my biological family, with Karen, with Tony, with my biological brother, and with my mother. A third step, I was due to have knee surgery April of 2012, and a cousin, Irene, from Detroit on my father's side, she advised me to read this book. A very heartwarming, very interesting book by Joel Osteen. It's called Every Day of Friday, 7 Days of Happiness. The book told a lot of anecdotes about how to, view life. That life is not always as bad as we see it. Other people may have life worse. The act of forgiveness. Joel Osteen stated, how dare us ask God to forgive us if we can't forgive others? At that time, I truly forgave my mother 100%. Again, she was a wonderful woman, but she just didn't agree with certain things and decisions that I made in life. And again, gender is not a choice, but she could not see it as that. My step 4 was when I wrote Climbing Life's Mountains, Overcoming Challenges of Biracial Birth, Adoption, Gender Identity, and Depression. My whole purpose of writing the book, sharing with others, is to help other people, and it's very therapeutic. So in doing that and the writing itself and also the travel throughout the entire U.S., it has been very heartwarming to help people who are suffering from depression, people who have gender issues, transition, or internal gender conflict, people at the beginning of their journey, adoption. I've led many people to find their their biological families. So again, the book itself helped me overcome my depression, and I can truly say that I've climbed my mountains. If I can climb, other people shall as well.
And that pretty much answered my next question, was what inspired your book. But I'm very much a believer about forgiveness, and not only forgiving others, but sometimes even forgiving ourselves for holding on to these emotions. And when we hold on to these anger and fear and all these emotions that really create depression is what doesn't allow us to come out of this depressive state. So by forgiving, loving oneself unconditionally, and that's one of the biggest messages we at Transition Radio try to share with people, that it's very important to have self-love. If you don't love self, how can you love others? And how can you expect others to love you? And that's a very big message.
I totally agree. One thing I wanted to add on inspiring my book, as a young child, I was, shortly after being adopted, my adopted mother was the director of the primary church, which is a children's church for Metropolitan Baptist Church in Detroit. I learned a song. It's called Do Something for Somebody Every Day. I truly live by the song, by the motto. Just a quick verse is do something for somebody every day. Go scatter a blessing along life's way. Give help to thy neighbor. Be watchful, pray. Do something for somebody every day. It's very therapeutic for me to help other people, just putting a smile on people's face. It's my sister-in-law, Gina. She says that I have a heart as big as the state of Texas. The reason for that, again, is I love to see people happy.
That's an important thing because, I mean, the world's already filled with a lot of negativity, so smiling and feeling happy is the cure for all, and love as well.
And also, if you notice, you see somebody that looks gloomy and has a bad day, you give them a smile and you compliment them, and you're like, hey, I love your hair, and all of a sudden that anguish seems to turn to light, and you see a different side of that person. And, it's all in how you project. You can change that person's entire day just by simply shooting them a smile and giving them a compliment. It works absolutely well.
I'm also a believer that people are a mirror image of us. So we walk around angry and hurt and all this stuff. That's the kind of people we're going to meet up with, and that's the kind of reaction we're going to receive from others. So as we change our inside, the people that come across our lives are going to be totally as the same reflection we have within.
Exactly. Jala,
right, this is very true.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of time hearing you, but I was saying that's very true. I truly 100% agree with you.
Absolutely. There's a little bit of a delay, so sometimes we get caught up where somebody talks over one another, but it's not a problem. It's because of that stupid little delay that goes on every now and again. But give us a short synopsis about your book.
I don't know. No, that's just something of making people laugh. That's my humor for the day. Giving you a short synopsis of my book. My book is Climbing Life's Mountains, Overcoming Biracial Birth, Adoption, Gender Identity, and Depression. It's set up in 5 different sections. The first section, just a brief synopsis, first section is on education. I truly believe that education set up with your formative years, which includes your first 5 years of your birth. During my first 5 years, I went from foster home to foster home. During my time at my last foster home, I was indoctrinated into the civil rights movement. What I mean by that, as a small child, I would sit on the floor, color my coloring books, play, but at the same time I would watch the news with my foster family, and I would watch the marches, the protests for the civil rights movement. I would listen to the I Have a Dream speech by Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., so that helped molded me for the person that I am today. I also believe that classroom and life experiences both make up education. Both sectors of classroom and life experiences should be combined to give you a thorough education. It took me 14 years to get my undergraduate degree at Eastern Michigan University. Normally it takes 4 years to get my bachelor's degree. However, while it took so long, I changed my major 4 times. I went part-time. I dropped classes. I sat out of school for a period of time. And as I sat out, I became a union representative for AFSCME Local 1583 out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, which led me to several conventions. One convention in 1990, I went to Miami, and I had the privilege of listening to Bishop Desmond Tutu. In 1992, I had the privilege to go to the Las Vegas convention, and presidential candidate Bill Clinton was addressing us as well. We were the first organization to support President Clinton. So again, when I finally graduated in 1997, I had a bachelor's degree in history and political science. So I urge other people to never give up, to continue their educational focus. Section 2 was community and political involvement. My my adopted mother, she was very influential in the political world and the community. She was the president and first founder of the Shield Street Block Club. She fought against a prison that was built in our neighborhood. She indoctrinated my brother and myself both to become involved in this, to stand up for what's right. I mentioned U.S. Congresswoman Maxine Waters. She's my all-time favorite political figurehead. She made a statement in the early 1990s that there is a proper way to stand up for your rights, that a riot is unorganized chaos, but there is a way to stand up for your rights, and I truly share that view. Section 3 of my book is Overcoming Depression, as I mentioned earlier, question. If I can overcome depression, others shall as well. Therefore, I sent my message to people, and I'm hoping that it was well received and that it will continue to be well received. Section 4 is the gender transition. I started that section out by removing my opinion from that section because the whole purpose was to educate those who struggle with internal gender conflict, those at the beginning of their journey because it's a long and bumpy road, and also the non-transgender people who support the transition because, again, it is very supported in today's day. So I used the Wikipedia definition of gender transition. I then spoke about my transition. Okay, I shared the story of my transition, which included my voice, my makeup, my appearance, my whole makeup of me, my name change, which took place January 31st, 2006. I then concluded by including interviews. I interviewed Jane Kimball Sargent. She's from Diverse Solutions. She's my psychologist and my gender specialist out of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Jay, I hate to cut you off. There's another caller calling in. I usually like to find out if they have questions, but the book sounds really, really interesting. Hold on one second. Caller, do you have a... wait a minute. Wait, did I hit it? No, I didn't right for it. No. Okay, here we go. Caller, do you have a question for Jada?
Yes. Am I on?
Yeah, you're on. Identify yourself and go ahead.
Yes, my name is Jessica Annette. I'm actually been transitioning for the last year and a half. In the chat room, I'm TG Live for Jessica. I do have a question. And that's almost left me, so I'm glad you answered. But with the time period, during my transition when I was younger, I mean, I was battling all kinds of stuff. And one of the stuff I was battling was, I guess, information. We didn't have the information highway as what we have today and today's generation. So when you say you were listening to Martin Luther King and all that, I'm just sort of kind of curious on what methods for that depression and all that before you actually knew and dealt with the transition aspects of it and decided that, hey, all right, it's time to solve this. Am I making sense?
Yes. With your question, you're saying what steps, as far as what media steps did I use with my depression, overcome my depression? Was that the question? I couldn't hear you 100%, but was that the question?
Yeah, pretty much. Because, like I said, we didn't have the information highway back then, and I don't know if it was like you, but back in the days, if I wanted to look for something about, transgender, all I pulled up was, nasty old porn and all kinds of stuff like that, which I knew I wasn't. So I was kind of curious what you did even before that. So, and how you dealt with all that.
As far as depression went, depression is a process, or overcoming depression, I should say, is a process. I didn't necessarily use the Internet because during my depressed days, I was so deep in a hole that nothing really could help me except for time. As I mentioned, it was an ironic twist. So when I lost my adopted mother and my god sister, and I reunited with my adopted family and with my god family, that helped. But the only media that I could say that really helped me overcome my depression was when I read Joel Osteen's book, that was called Every Day is a Friday, 7 Days of Happiness per Week. Reading that book at a section at a time, maybe a chapter a day, 2 chapters of a day, and letting it work on me, that was the most that I did as far as any type of reading or media. As far as me helping other people in that aspect of overcoming my depression, using Facebook, using LinkedIn, writing my book and sharing my information and reaching out to people that way, and then sharing also on the gender aspect, on adoption, on depression, on those things. Later in my depression, that's when I reached out to the media. But in terms of helping me, I didn't get the help until I started helping others, if that makes sense.
Okay. So no, that does. That answered my question a lot. I thank you. Thank you for answering that. I'm adopted too, and the 2 different lifestyles are definitely different, as I'm sure everybody else's story, but your story definitely does help. So thank you.
Thank you.
You have a good night.
Important. Thank you, Gigi, Jessica. That's what's so important about sharing one's story, because your story can help others, and that's why I think that here at Transition Radio, we've got a great stage to allow people to tell the stories and then have other people listen, and people get help that way.
Right,
it's
absolutely.
just an amazing thing. That's the beauty of the Internet and resources that we provide. So let me ask you this. How has aligning your mind with your heart changed your life?
Could you repeat that? I couldn't hear you too well.
How has aligning your mind with your heart changed your life?
Yes, aligning my mind with my heart. First of all, I was glad that I went through the experience. Along the road, I lost some relationships. I lost relationships with friends, some friends, but other friends have been very supportive of the relationship, as I mentioned, with my adopted mother. So it's been some loss. It's been some give and take. Now, overall, it's been a great experience because I'm no longer a troubled woman. I'm happy because, as I mentioned in my interview with the Eastern Michigan Echo, actually, Terrell wrote a wonderful article. She asked me, what is my most prized accomplishment? My prized accomplishment is just being accepted as a normal woman, everyday woman by society. As you mentioned before, transgender women and men are professors, doctors, attorneys, politicians, salespeople, etc., and just being accepted as a normal person and in aligning my mind with my heart, that has just brought a full fulfillment of happiness and joy to me.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, And I think it starts off with self-acceptance. Just think once we, as an individual, accept ourselves for who we are, then I think the rest follows. I think it's almost like contagious, and that in the beginning when we're all scared and we're all freaking out about what people are going to think about us, and we emit this kind of energy, and that's the kind of energy that we're going to get in return. So when you walk with your head high and you're okay with yourself, everybody else will become okay too.
Yes, exactly.
That's true. We as transgender people, there's been a lot of guilt and shame, a lot of nervousness of how people would perceive us and take us. Things are a lot better in today's age. When you hear the 2 most powerful people in the U.S. speak, that the transgender movement, the president and the vice president of the U.S. both say that the transgender acceptance movement is the civil rights movement of our day, that is very strong. That is very strong to give us the support that we need and that we deserve.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, if you could talk to someone that is going through what you went through, what would you tell them?
There's several things that I would say. First of all, I would say be true to your own self. You only know who you are as far as gender, as far as a person. There's not a litmus test that tells you if you're a male or female. Transition, when you're ready to take those steps to transition, then take the steps. Don't let anybody force you into a movement that you're not ready for, because, again, it's a long, bumpy road. You may lose relationships. You will impact other people, but you do need to be happy. if you have concerns, I suggest that you have a professional guidance, a gender specialist if needed. Prior to making your surgery or your decision for surgery, make sure that this is 100% sure of what you want to do, because once it's done, it's done. Understand, and this is very important, understand and act accordingly. Realize that whatever actions that you take as a person, that's how we as a group of transgender people, whether transgender male or female, that's how we're going to be perceived. So if we're seen as being unprofessional, uneducated, in a disrespectful manner, then that's how us as transgender people as a whole will be seen. But if we're seen as being kind, loving people that we are, then that's how we will be seen as well. That would be my advice that I would have for other people.
And one of the things I find that there is a lot of disconnect within the actual community itself. So how can we expect the world to accept us if we don't accept each other? There's a lot of fighting, a lot of political BS that goes on. You know, not everyone's going to take the same path. Not everyone's going to be on hormones. Not everyone's going to want to do the surgery. Doesn't mean you're less transgender than the other person. Everybody expresses themselves differently. And I believe once we start respecting one another as transgender individuals, wherever we fit in that spectrum, then there's room for growth. And then we could stick together and make this movement a much bigger movement. And finally, in the long road of things, we will all be accepted and understood and loved.
That's true.
So what is in the near future for you, Jala? What would you like to see in the near future?
Right. Currently, I'm promoting my book, Climbing Life's Mountains, Overcoming Challenges of Biracial Birth, Adoption, Gender Identity, and Transition. I traveled here to New Jersey for the next 10 days or so. I will be promoting my book in New Jersey, New York, and Philadelphia. I currently have a special on Amazon Kindle because I was aware of the radio show, and I wanted many people to take advantage of my promotion. I have a promotion for people who have Kindle or smartphones, tablets, iPads. On Amazon.com, the book currently is only 99 cents because I want people to take advantage of the book because I think it would help. I'm also in the process of writing our second book. I'm writing a book with my ex-spouse and my son showing the impact that they both had during my stages of depression and my gender transition. My goal is to have that book published by August or September of this year. So that's what we're going to be doing, continue to travel throughout the U.S. and helping other people by sharing my life's experiences.
That's wonderful. Well, the first 30 minutes of the show was live. The remaining of the show will be on demand as soon as the show ends. It's around 20 minutes or so. People can listen to the entire interview. We want to thank you. Your story is amazing. We wish you luck in the future. Continue to do what you're doing. You're saving lives, helping people, and that's what it's all about. I believe we are here to be healers, but first need to be healed. We went through all the pain that we went through, but now once we surpass that pain, then we are equipped to help others. So I believe we're angelic. That's the whole concept behind the Angelic Transition Radio. And I just want to say keep up the good work, Jala, and good luck in the future, and thank you so very much for being part of our Transition Radio Show family.
Absolutely, and if you would like to go to our website at transitionradio.net, go to the website, go to the guest book, and sign in to show your support and just what you think about all this, and go from there. And send me a friend request on Facebook.
Thank you. I truly want to thank you, and I truly appreciated the interview, and I enjoyed it, and I hope others did as well.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Very interesting. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in yet again. Remember, we love you, but remember to always love yourselves, too. And I'm ending the show with one of my originals called I Just Want to Be Me. Good night, folks.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Sitting all alone tonight, reminiscing about my life, the pain and the heartache, the lies and the hurt, all seem to come together in one single word. I just wanna be me and nobody else. Can the world finally get it? It's all about the self. I just wanna be me and nobody else. Can the world finally get it? It's all about the self. We hide our existence, we drown in our shame. It's never good enough, this feeling of hate. The words from our parents, the teasing in school, the people that hurt us, why are they so cruel? 'Cause I just wanna be me and nobody else. Can the world finally get it? It's all about the self. I just wanna be me and nobody else. Can the world finally get it? It's all about the self. The river of heartache, the tunnel of pain, the ridicule moments that go through our brains. Can never forget them, nor can I pretend. Once you refer to me as a deviant mistake. 'Cause I just wanna be me and nobody else. Can the world finally get it? It's all about the self. 'Cause I just wanna be me and nobody else. Can the world finally get it? It's all about the self. We look in the mirror and cannot explain. Why is it that our bodies don't match with our brains? We want to feel normal, we want to belong, so we try to conform to your idealistic world. It seems to get harder, the harder we try, and fail to complete this unrealistic lie. 'Cause I just wanna be me and nobody else. Can the world finally get it? It's all about the self. 'Cause I just wanna be me and nobody else. Can the world finally get it? It's all about the self. Now I just wanna be me and nobody else. Can this world finally get it? Please do. 'Cause it's all about the self. I just wanna be me and nobody else. Can this world finally get it? Please do. 'Cause it's all about the self.